Yo, yo, yo. What is
Because again,
good,
there was
YouTube family? Hopefully, you guys are doing absolutely blessed today. We are back at it again with Wyckoff Sundays, episode 15. All right, as always, we're going to start off with reviewing what we said last week. How did things end up playing out from that? And obviously, as always, we're going to start off with dollar DXY, the king right here. So we spoke about a couple different scenarios for dollar, really. Obviously, we saw the initial buys that we wanted to see the week before. Now, this week, what we spoke about was just the last point of order flow, right? Um,
when price came back into that level and then we traded back out. So this is where we took our USD CAD buy, basically was like right now we had our test and now we came
I
right back
believe
into
this
the
is where we were
intact, and the fact that we
saying,
still have this right underneath the because we had a little in the bottom
let's just get
managed
it
to
open
again
here.
pull back, give us some discounted pricing. Obviously my price we're getting in
I have
last
a
week
zone here that we
for us,
marked
right? I
up
do
that was
definitely see
very, very
the
clean. I
gap
believe it is
and the
this exact zone. So yeah, that same zone that we were talking about right there. We were speaking about as a potential point for order flow. Again, this is, as we can see, the low that really created the high when we were on Wyckoff Sunday. So we could see right here, this low there, right? We have that manipulation move, right? We go ahead and create a new high, and then the market pulls back, and we were kind of thinking, all right, maybe we can end up seeing a new high happen here, right? The main thing that we were thinking as well was that we were most likely going to be reaching above this level here. And it was interesting the way that the market opened up last week because we did end up obviously initially going towards that level pretty aggressively, as we could see here, right? So, pretty much instantly we ended up reaching up towards that high, right? So price gapped up and then we pulled all the way back in to the exact zone that we spoke about, right? So this is the zone we were talking about there on Wyckoff Sundays last week. And yeah, right here, right? So this is again, right, that same zone. And so we did end up seeing the market go ahead, pull back into that level and give pretty much, a nice buy up from that area. Now, another scenario, obviously, that, after this happened later on in the week, obviously, we were kind of playing with the idea of this being a potential distribution. And obviously, we could see it did play out as one, right? Really, really clean price action to see this, head to the downside again, right? And yeah, just overall, looking kind of interesting. So we'll talk about what we could see here in the future, but really that was the main thing that we spoke about last week was the potential for us to buy from this level and to target this high. So we did end up hitting the high right away. So, obviously it was a bit tricky. But like in terms of like having a real target here. But as I said, we did also speak about the potential for what I think is gonna be happening here on dollar, which we're going to speak about, right after this, right? So that was our idea there with dollar. Now we spoke about things like with EU as well, obviously aligning with that same idea, to see what we could find. So obviously with GU, one of the main things that we were looking at was to go ahead and see price get above this high and see if from there we could end up getting a sell-off back down. Obviously, that would align with our dollar buy bias to see GBP USD, come lower, right? Obviously, we can see price did initially do so, right? So we had the market open right around here, right? Price instantly went up towards the zone that we were looking at for sales and gave a really beautiful reaction. I saw one of the guys ended up taking this position as well as a short-term move. And then here we can obviously see that price reaccumulated again from our previous point of order flow, right? Again, this was always going to be a danger area because of this sweep here, right? And again, like I said, I do think that the other scenario that I was thinking with dollar last week, like we said here, that we're probably most likely going to have, one more drive down before we get our long-term buys. So I think our LPSY is going to be a little bit lower as we get below these levels here, right? So, that's pretty much what we were looking for as well when we spoke
manage
about
of
this, I believe.
would be a spring, right? If we can get a spring, that's going to be an easy buy for me. Once we're getting into these extreme areas down here, for me personally, that's what I'm going to want to see, especially if we have not yet filled the gap and
Which we did fill the gap, so we'll see how it ends up going. But I do think that this can still end up being that was kind of the second scenario we were speaking about. Is like either one, we hold the order flow and we go, or two, we end up getting above this high and then we end up, doing the spring to then continue to go long after that. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Again, like we'll speak about that a little bit more later on, right? But that was basically again, I think why, GU played out the way that it did, why EU played out the way it did as well. With EU, we were a little bit more cautious on because. Obviously, as we can see, we were getting back into the previous buy areas over here, right? So obviously, even though we did have a nice distribution up there, right, getting back into order flow could easily give us a reason to just continue the push. And again, that's pretty much what ended up happening. But we did speak about a specific sell zone, I believe, which was here. Um, oh no, maybe we didn't. No, we didn't look at that for sales. So we were really only looking at GU, and then we were thinking EU. We wanted to stay away from. NU, we were saying most likely scenario was another high, as we could see here, right?
There on
So,
NZD.
whoops, right there. We were looking for another high to maybe give us a distribution to align with the dollar buy bias. We didn't actually end up getting that, right? Surprisingly. I mean, now there's a lot of liquidity down here, which I think really up here, which I think really gives the validity towards seeing maybe one more drive up here, with dollar essentially going down one more time, right? So I think we'll probably end up seeing that. We'll talk more about it in a bit. I'm going back and forth between there. Now. Let's go ahead and see what else we had. So we had USD CAD here, right? We spoke about this.
Later. Um,
I don't think that we really were, looking for too much there, to be honest, though. UChef, UJ was the one that I really liked, and we spoke about UChef as well down in here. Let's see what UChef ended up doing. Um, okay, that's the zone that we're in now. So, we'll see if that holds or not, right? But we ended up really just instead of getting all the way down to this level, we just ended up just barely sweeping out these lows here. Like literally just barely. Oh, did we even? Yeah, we did. Yeah, right here. Yeah. So we could see just a little wick just going ahead and clearing out a bit of lows. We did want to see a little bit more of an extreme area, but that's how it goes sometimes. And obviously that didn't even end up being a long-term low. We had a huge crash down on USD Chef, right? So we'll see how this ends up going next week, like I said, and we'll go more into that in a little bit. UJ, we spoke about. We spoke about how we wanted to see price get back into this level. I don't believe we ended up getting that. Let's see what we got for UJ. Where's UJ right here? Yeah, no, we didn't end up getting that. Now we've ended up taking out the high and crashing through, which is good to see. We have been looking for shorts on this in general. But yeah, so we ended up having this push to the downside here. It was this one, right? So this was on Monday. We ended up again, just very similar to USD Chef, just kind of taking out recent lows as opposed to really giving a bigger time frame pullback. And I think now we're maybe flushing out some buyers. So we'll see how this ends up going. But damn crazy drop there, definitely on USD JPY. Now beyond that, we have gold, right? So gold pretty much played exactly as we expected. We were talking about the potential for this being a higher time frame distribution. I also want to give a shout out to a bunch of people in the group who did manage to take advantage of gold shorts this week. And pretty much what we were saying was our main target was down here at 46.40 at minimum to see this sell really continue in from. Obviously, ideally, we wanted to see price get a little bit higher and then, take out some highs and then do it. But instead, we just kind of ended up holding this order flow here that have been happening since last week. So I'm pretty sure that's what we said last week. Let's double check.
price looking like it's distributing. And if this is the low of our distribution here, then again, this should be what we should reach, right? Which is 45.50, right?
So yeah, 45.50, like we said, was going to be our zone there. And as we can see here, right, that's exactly what happened. Let me delete some of this stuff here. I was doing some teaching. Now here we have 45.50 right here now getting taken, from that low. FOMC, as you can see, we did manage to position into a trade during that FOMC news event, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, for the sells, again, just beautiful targets and just continuing what we were already saying. And we'll see what ends up happening. Again, we'll talk more about what we can see next week. Now we have that there, right? We were gonna check the weekend prices. That's fine. Where's silver? We got to talk about silver next. Oh yeah, and then we spoke about the potential for the buys, right? So this is where we also spoke about that after we end up reaching the lows that again we might be able to see a reaccumulation buy. I don't know where that is here. Okay, I guess whatever, it's fine. Yeah, so then that we ended up going into silver, right? And again, really just same idea. I don't know exactly what target I was looking for, but it looks like we spoke about this zone here on silver, which we didn't quite manage to reach. Again, we did want to reach a more extreme area, but unfortunately we didn't tap into there. We kind of just held the structure here, which is fine, right? It happens. Again, like we want to always find the more extreme areas. In this case, I feel like this week was just more of a continuation from the trade that we were already looking at from the week before, because we've been talking about gold shorts since episode 13 or 12. So about for the last 2 weeks. So yeah, makes sense to see the market again, just really just delivering on that rather than, really giving another entry opportunity for people, right? Nasdaq and indices in general, like we said, we're in general going to stay away from them because, you know, obviously we're already at all-time highs, right? We didn't really have oh, you said that you did as well for the gold, eh? That's good to hear. Awesome. Congratulations. Good stuff. But yeah, so like I said, when it comes to indices, right, like we wanted to see more structure going to the downside before we short. A lot of people in the community wanted to look for shorts for indices, but again, the signs and symptoms just weren't really there at all. So yeah, I didn't end up shorting myself. We can see that there was a really nice long opportunity. I tried to long it, I believe, actually, somewhere over here. I took a small profit, and then after that, like again, we just had to continue to drive down. So yeah, it was again not really. Nothing too crazy, but I think that with indices again, it's like we're not trying to like catch the top here. We're not trying to like be the person to catch the entirety of the move. We all we need to do is really catch a piece of the move. That's all we need, right? So let the market go ahead and create some structure and stuff before we do that. So for me, indices last week was more of a no play. As I said, and yeah, that was really that. And then we spoke about BTC and the likelihood of us going to the upside there. We did speak about this zone here on ETH actually.
ETH, I mean, sorry.
Cough.
With ETH, it's a little different. Again, because we have this sweep up here, right? Came back down, right? We had really nice liquidity there, and then another sweep here. I mean, technically, this would be like a type 1 setup, the mitigation.
So yeah, we did say that was actually a type 1 setup. And if we do look, ETH reacted so nicely off of that level right here, right? So we can see nice institutional candle there, nice manipulation move here. And then when price tapped back in, boom, we went right back towards the liquidity. Am I still bullish on this? Yes, I am still bullish on crypto. It does still look like we're just slowly, heading to the upside. My bad, another lesson here. We're gonna take that out. Cool. Now, again, like just seeing the build up here, like, yeah, we do have a tiny sweep here, but I'm not convinced, especially considering that we have such a nice, manipulation down here coming back into previous lows. It's just not the kind of thing I want to short. I think most likely scenario is we just continue with the trend. So yeah, I think with BTC, again, that's most likely so bullish. Now that was about it, right? Oh yeah, and we spoke about oil. We definitely never got filled on this. Oil just went straight, line up. We spoke about these equal lows here. We could see if it swept those. There. Yeah, it didn't. It did not. It did not sweep those lows. So yeah, really, again, there wasn't really much of an entry opportunity here since we ended up there, right? We're gonna speak about now, guys. So right now, this was just a review. For this right now, we'll go into the thing. So like you said, we'll speak about gold there in just a second. All right, guys. So now we'll go ahead before we actually tap in is go into what news events we could potentially see. So we can see here, we have ISM services on Tuesday. Right. And that's about it. Right. And then I think Friday, obviously, we have NFP. Right. So we are going into an NFP week, and then the rest of the week is like very low on news. So, with that being the case, most likely, we're gonna want to be careful. Like with me, with NFP weeks, I genuinely like. I mostly try and hit base hits, you know what I'm saying, in that first week. Just not looking to swing too much. Just trying to get like 1 to 3s, stuff like that. And then just let those like take those trades and just take the profit early because a lot of the times we see a lot of consolidation leading up to the actual NFP day, right? We'll see if that's how NFP really works this week. But yeah, definitely an exciting time. We do love major news events like this because it just ramps up the money in the market, right? It ramps up the volume, which in turn gives us more volatility, which is great for us as traders, right? So that's what we're going to want to see. All right. So now let's go into what we can potentially see for the week. So we're going to start off with dollar. We're going to go into currency. Then we're going to go into metals. And then we're going to go into indices. And then we're going to go into crypto. All right. So starting out with dollar. All right. Again, the situation has definitely changed from last week, right? All we really had from previous weeks was to go off of was this sweep right here. We do see a beautiful institutional candle coming down is coming down here, right, to go ahead and take lows, right? And then, we saw the market come up, right? Mitigate that zone and then continue to drive higher, right? So this looked like it was obviously a good opportunity at the time, but again, now the situation has changed, right? We're in a position where now, I mean, at least on this feed here, we have seen dollar go above those equal highs and touch the gap. I don't think this is necessarily going to be a high long term at all. I don't think that's going to be the case. If we do look here on other areas, right? We could see here, for example, on the capital.com feed, we don't have that gap up, right? Like this is where the market opens on that feed there, right? Versus when we look at the feed that obviously we normally look at, which is this trading view feed, right? We do see price gap up, literally take the highs and then dump right back off, and then we just see price get back in there and sell off. So it's kind of interesting for sure how things played out there. Not sure why things happen like that on some feeds versus others. That's very rare that that happens. But yeah, here we are. So in a bit of an interesting point, right? Now, like I was saying on the last call, right? I think that there is a possibility just because like we are obviously looking for reaccumulation to take place, right? We had a full-on distribution happen up here. Now we want to see a full-on accumulation happen down here, right? I think we still have a lot of room to go down. Obviously, daily wise, again, we're looking at this potential accumulation schematic that we've been seeing on dollar that could be, what ends up being the longer term narrative. We do want to see our first target to be around like 102 to go ahead and take out this high for that accumulation. So that's kind of what my thought process is right now with dollar. Now, looking at how things really played out, last week. Obviously, we do see the market now has tapped into the extreme area, which is obviously this low right here. We can see this nice 4 hour down candle. And we did do so with a really nice 4 hour down candle here. I can't lie, right? So we do definitely have, the market going ahead and, creating a second point of manipulation inside of a previous zone. So we really have two main scenarios here, right? Scenario number one is that we already had the spring, right? And now we're coming back and we're mitigating that spring here, right? That's scenario one. So if that's the case, we most likely would see price retrace back into this candle, and then from there go ahead and potentially see a really impulsive move towards 99, right? If this whole push down is manipulation, we'll probably see a fast move up engulfing it, right? For dollar. Now, if not that zone, then again, maybe it will end up being like a spring scenario where we have ST this rather than this being a spring, it actually is a ST in phase B that turns into a UT, right? That we then go ahead and spring off of to come all the way down here, right? Get our spring here, right? In terms of this reaccumulation and kind of align with our higher time frame LPSY that we're kind of waiting for to see if this ends up happening, right? To see if we really can see this become a long-term accumulation, which it does look pretty clean to do so, right? It does look pretty clean to be a higher time frame accumulation, right? And when it comes to the range that we're in right now, right? I mean, we're starting to get below the 50% of the range, right? When it comes to obviously from this low to this high, or if we talk about the range from like the SC to the AR, I believe that's what my solid white line is here. Oh, sorry, it's not there. We want to put this at the bottom here. This at the top of the AR. Yeah, so this is right around the 50% of the range, right? So right now we are below 50% of the range, which is great. But if we can, like, again, like I said last week, if we can really get this, instead of this being the spring, I mean, we'll probably take an attempt here anyways if it does align. Again, this is a 4 hour time frame, so we can even do another type 1 setup if price gets back into that zone. Which it most likely will. We that's definitely an unmitigated zone right there. So most likely we will get back into here. This is where we can take one attempt at the dollar buys, and if not, then we're going to want to see price get down here, right, and go ahead and create another opportunity for us to really see a spring happen, get in on a test or get in on LPSY. We'll see how it ends up going, but that's really what we're looking for. Our mindset is still bullish on dollar, and we're just looking for that excuse to go ahead and long, right? I think now with the way that price closed, that could be an excuse right there, right? That could be a reason for us to potentially go long if we just see the market just trade back into there and then buy from those levels, right? For me, looking at currency though, I don't know if I really think that this here is super likely, right? I think that the more likely scenario is that we end up getting dollar to create a new low do a spring, and then from there we can, position in for, more longs, right? So those are really the two main scenarios I'm thinking of. All right, guys. That's really the idea. And if we do end up doing a spring, I do believe that the spring will at least get below this low here, which is at 97.35, right? So getting below there to create a spring, maybe that ends up becoming an LPSY so that we can go ahead and go long, right? So that's personally what I'm leaning towards. But again, this 4 hour candle is very clean, so I can't ignore it. So even if I don't want to buy here, if we do see price get back into this level, and again, like give us a smaller time frame, confirmation, another 5 phases or something, that we can go ahead and use to go long, well then I'll take an attempt. You know what I mean? I'll take an attempt on this as a type one. But if not, then again, most likely we do end up getting price reaching down, creating that spring, and hopefully later on we could follow up with that after we see the spring get created, or maybe even, take it as a type three, depending on how things go, right? Now let's move into currency. So Euro USD, right? We spoke about this last week as well. The potential of price buying from this low. We did end up coming into that low, buying back up. We spoke about we wanted to see points of liquidity here and here get taken. It's definitely still possible, for this high here to be taken, right? It does look like already like that Euro USD and dollar are kind of in two different places. Euro USD, sorry, I mean, yeah, dollar is already inside of this extreme low here, which relative to Euro USD, right, is right there, right? So this push to the upside here on Euro USD is the same, is happened at the same time as this push to the downside here on dollar. So that's the same price action, but we can see that Euro USD is staying a lot lower, right? We actually didn't see the market, even tap above this high, which again, aligning with dollar is the same as this low, right? So seeing that we don't even really see that might not be like that dollar might be the one to take out the low, and then when dollar takes out the low, Euro USD will probably only take out this local high by the looks of it, right? If we really look at it that way. So it could be the case that dollar doesn't actually get an extra sorry, that Euro USD, I mean, doesn't really get that extra drive above this high, by the looks of it now, because Euro USD looks a lot weaker compared to just dollar alone, which is interesting because normally they're obviously completely inverse, and they stay that way, right? In terms of like, the relative highs and lows, kind of holding. But we could see a scenario where dollar ends up taking the lows and Euro USD ends up just taking these internal highs, and maybe holding this initial manipulation that happened over here, right? So if that's the case, then that's what I'll probably be, looking for next week there. So potentially EU up in this level, for continuations to the downside. All right. Now, let's go ahead and look at GU, right? So GU went ahead and had a really nice long position happen. We can see how the market, had like this previous sweep here, right? If we go to the 30, I think it's more clean. Right here, like this big push to the downside there, right? That swept all these lows. And then we have the retest. We come up, price gets back into that retest. We see a really nice accumulation here, I believe. And we see good, pretty decent volume as well, with really low volume being here, right? We have a higher volume spike here, and then we also have a volume spike over here, although it's not the biggest, right? We do have a bigger spike here though. But yeah, in phase A, we definitely do have a big volume spike, but technically phase B ends up giving an even bigger one. But the spring itself, very low volume, which is good to see. That's exactly what we want to see happen inside of Wyckoff. So really nice long from that level. We're now above this previous high. So GU compared to EU just looks to be the stronger pair here. So most likely this is going to be something that I won't want to look for if I'm going to be looking for dollar buys, right? Dollar buys, it does look like EU being the weaker pair would probably end up giving us a better setup with a better, risk to reward potential, and with a stronger move to the downside versus with GU, it does look a lot stronger. We are breaking highs a lot easier, most likely because of a bullish GBP, right? Now, with Euro USD, again, like we said, it's very different, right? Same with, AU. Right, AU just made a new high there, right? Again, not really the best, I feel like, for that dollar buy scenario. Now NU, this could be an interesting one, given the amount of liquidity that's here, right? It could be the case that, again, this is our first drive, this is our second drive, and we're waiting for our third drive to happen above this high, maybe above this high will probably be what I'd be looking for, right? So something like that, right? to then go ahead and drive us to the downside would be basically what I would want to do, for NU. So NU I do like just because of the buildup of liquidity there. If you did want to go for dollar shorts at some point, NU might be a good idea, just given like, especially if we haven't taken this liquidity and let's say we pull back to this level, I think that this level could be really good for longs if we haven't taken that liquidity, right? If we have taken the liquidity and we get down here, then it's not going to be as strong anymore, right? So we'll see how it goes. But I think longer term, this is kind of what I want to see happen is like, can we create that UTAD above those equal highs for NU, for NU, right? And that's really that. USD CAD, right, coming a little lower. I actually think this one might be really nice for buys this coming week, right? Obviously, as you can see, we did take some nice buys here, close them at the top. And then, we had another sweep. And again, we're holding that structure. So this could be a potential accumulation, with multiple drives to the downside. Maybe we're seeing a spring happen now. If we do see a scenario where dollar actually does hold this level here, and we do just come back into that 4-hour candle that we saw earlier, right? Then maybe USD CAD could end up in a similar scenario where again, this actually does end up being the bottom as it is, right? And then we end up seeing price retrace, right? And then maybe we can go ahead and long from that level there. That's actually something I think is not too bad. So I'll definitely be monitoring dollar in this area here, right? Let's go ahead and mark it up as well. Oops. Let's go ahead and mark it up. Right, probably somewhere down in there would be what we would want. So I'm gonna put the alert there. Good stuff. So yeah, that's USD CAD, right? USD Chef, huge sell-off. Most likely we will get, I feel like, another low here just because of how fast that is. Most likely we can potentially even get back down into these levels here. I hope we can do that. That would be really clean to me. But yeah, just the way that we really created that blow off top and then just sold off so aggressively. I'm not trying to buy the low that it came from to bring us up there, right? I'd rather buy it when we get into a new low because that's what it looks like to me, is that we'll most likely get this into a new low. So that's what I'd want to see for USD Chef. We'll see if this area can hold out, but really it's this entire push to the downside here. So we could even see some internal lows get taken and the trade still be valid to go long. But yeah, still looking for longs there as well. UJ could be an interesting one given that we've swept out so many buyers. Maybe this can be something that we can play if we get a little lower. Maybe we get one more sweep and then we can actually take this. We do see a kind of a nice zone here, right? But in general, it's like this push to the downside here, like this whole move down is our, basically where I feel like we'll be retesting in general to go ahead and, see this buy up. So if we could see like another drive down, that'd be great to really go ahead and see this, turn into a long position, but we'll see. But yeah, that's that, guys. All right, so let's go ahead and go into gold now. All right, gold. So back into the metals. So gold, obviously we hit our target for the distribution, right? Meaning that obviously, over here, this obviously is a distribution that's happening, right? Now, right over here, distribution right there, right? So this being a distribution, right, that we're seeing here, all right, now the question is, can we get a reaccumulation, right? Obviously, I did end up taking this trade here as a type 1 entry model for FOMC, right? I did mean to take partials on this, but again, I just forgot about this account here. But yeah, so again, we ended up having because again, this is basically just the demo account I use to track the trades that we do for our live sessions, right? So that people can see it on the screen while I obviously take my trades on my phone, right? So I forgot about this to be honest with you, but cool to see. I ended up taking profit at around the 1 to 3 level up here, and then yeah, price continued. But yeah, I was kind of just looking for a short-term buy here, but obviously now what we've seen is the order flow here is actually decent, right? We actually have had lows that are creating new highs pretty nicely, although the new highs that are being created are not that strong, right? As we can see. So I'm really not too like I'm kind of in the middle with this. Personally, if I were to choose a perfect world, I wouldn't want like obviously what I'm looking for is a reaccumulation. I want to see price get back into this level, reaccumulate, and give us a new long potentially, right? There is obviously a chance for this to be the high, like the distribution to just be the high, and then we just sell off all the way down to like break the order flow of 4K. Some people seem to think that that's the play. For me, I'm not convinced yet. But I am going to look at what price action tells me. So if we don't accumulate inside of this low, then that's going to take away a lot of validity for the idea that we're going to hold 4.1K, obviously, right? If we break this low here. So I do think this low is a very significant low. We definitely had a great reaccumulation happen in this level. Big push to the downside as well. So we basically had just tapped into it when I took my trade, as you guys can see, right? Like we barely tapped into that zone, but we did hit the minimum level and then we had a good buy setup. So that's why I took it. But in general, I do not really think that that's going to be the bottom. I do think that it's very possible that we end up getting one more drive below these levels, right? Because this is a very big zone, right? We can easily still take out lows like this, and then we could take out another low again, right? While still holding the significant low, and then from there going long. So that's what I would personally want to see happen, is just get some buyer wipeouts in this zone, right? And then from there, look to long up into like, obviously the liquidity up here with the trend line down at about 4.8, right? 4.8K pretty much would be what we'd want to target. I think, right? So I think if we hold this low, then order flow is still holding. If we end up breaking through it, then it's not looking good, right? It's not looking too good for gold. But yeah, we're definitely at a bit of a decision point here. But I do want to see, like I said, maybe consolidating for the majority of the time, for majority of the week, and then eventually we end up getting a swipe out into these levels. I would love to go for longs from there, if the situation allows for it, if we do see one of our entry models there, right? So that's what I'm thinking for gold. All right, personally still bullish. I do see the chance for bearishness, but personally still bullish, right? Now, silver here, right? Similar idea. As with gold, right? One thing that I do like about silver is there is like some relatively equal highs sitting over here, but not really. I mean, like it does take out most of these highs, but we do respect this one here randomly. So, they're relatively equal here, the two of them. So that could end up being a target to go to the push up. What's the low level on gold? So the lowest, like really, it's this low here that I'm looking to see price hold, right? So at 4.35 would be really the idea that I want to see, hold, right? If we don't see that low hold, then we're gonna have to reconsider the possibility of gold just actually being bearish, especially with the new distribution and everything like that that's already confirmed and shown itself. So we'll see how it goes there, right? So yeah, so with silver, we have relatively equal highs sitting at this level. So I think we have better targets there on silver compared to gold. Gold again, like with those highs, like they weren't equal, right? We did see price break above, but when we go to silver, they're relatively equal, right? So maybe silver could be a better option instead of using gold as a position. For longs, again, I do think silver in general is like holding better than gold. So I personally would rather see that, but we're gonna have to see what happens. I do think that this level here could potentially be where we hold on to, for silver. If not, then again, maybe we do actually, yeah, actually, maybe a spring can make sense because we do have equal lows here. But yeah, so either one, like, below 70 basically, or two, we might hold this level here, right? Again, I do kind of have to make two possibilities for this one. But in general, bullish on silver, and especially until we take these highs, right? That high is going to be a very obvious target for us to target in the future here, right? Let me see here actually if I can take a look at the weekend prices. Oh, what? Still managed for sale. Oh, maybe I don't know what happened to that. All right. Well, yeah. So silver. Again, really just going ahead and looking to target highs. Yeah, silver pretty much follows gold. Yeah, silver and gold are pretty aligned, kind of similar to, dollar and the dollar pairs, but obviously they have their own nuances, they have their own highs and lows, and their own analysis as well. When it comes to our manipulation zones and where our liquidity zones are and stuff like that, right? So a lot of the times I'm looking at both for correlation, but deciding which one really looks better, for the actual long-term position, right? So yeah, US 30 here. Um, yeah, like we've been saying, guys, like I'm not too interested in indices. I'm not. If I'm gonna like look for something, I don't even want to look for longs. I'd rather look for the shorts just because, that's my belief with it, with the war and everything. Maybe I'm wrong, right? But I'm kind of like still considering the possibility of this entire push up that we've been seeing on like, US 30, like this huge push up we've been seeing on NASDAQ, right? Huge push up we've been seeing on S&P. Like I'm just thinking like it's possible that that could be a short squeeze, right? That so many people went short because of the war. Now we're looking to squeeze them out before we come down. There is still a possibility of that just given how fast we've been going to the upside. But that doesn't mean I want to try and guess where the top is. That's not what I'm trying to do, right? Like we said, we only need to catch a piece of the move. So for me, I'd rather go ahead and see order flow break. So right now, our last point of order flow is going to be right here. So that's going to be our key point of interest to see if we do break this low and we do retrace back up, that could end up being an opportunity for us to short once we get real structure on our side, once we get order flow on our side to go ahead and see this sell off potentially, right? So we'll see how that goes, right? Maybe just like again, come down, we take the low, we slowly get up, manipulate again, right? Get back into levels like this one. Maybe that could be the case. And if not, then we just keep going higher, right? And then eventually there'll be a new point of order flow that we can potentially shift from. But as of right now, order flow is bullish on all accounts. So no reason to sell yet, and no reason to buy either for me personally. So that's going to be my game plan with indices. Like I said last week I told you guys I was staying away from it. So yeah, probably going to be the same this week. So that's US 30. Cool. So that's indices. Now let's go into crypto, right? So that's pretty much, yeah, we're already getting towards the end here. So crypto here, super bullish, right? We had a recent five phases, in this low down here. I do think that there might be a possibility of price going ahead and getting above this liquidity here. So most likely, I feel like that's going to be what I'm going to look for is like price just continuing to drive up. Most likely we'll hit 80K this week. I think that that's pretty likely. To be honest, I would be surprised if we didn't hit 80K. And then, from there, we'll have to see what happens, right? Because it could be that this whole thing just ends up as a redistribution, and then we end up coming back down. But as of right now, there is no evidence of that, right? There is no evidence of that. So we just got to go ahead and let the market do its thing, give us the real evidence, and then we'll go in, from there, right? Even with ETH and stuff as well. Again, we did have price tap into there, but since then we've had this sweep to the downside. So now we've got like this sweep here and this sweep here, and they're competing against each other. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'd probably lean towards the longs here for ETH as well. To probably go ahead and like again, because this push to the downside here is very impulsive down, and then we do end up engulfing it back up. So it could be that that's a manipulation phase. We get a mitigation and then we go long. That's kind of how ETH is looking right now, right? But obviously only time will tell when it comes to this to ETH, right? Same with BTC, right? I haven't been touching crypto a lot lately, now that we've kind of broken highs, so I've kind of just been sitting on my hands. But yeah, that's pretty much what I am looking for with crypto as well, right? And yeah, that's pretty much that, guys. The other thing that I actually spoke about that I forgot to mention last week was GBP NZD. This was a community submission that somebody wanted me to look at, which we did end up looking at the end last week, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick.
Liquidity Monday, right? So we ended up getting the market sweeping below, right? So for finished all of it. So we'll see if we do end up continuing to go higher. Maybe there could be some opportunity here for this week. For another buy up, to the upside there. So yeah, we'll see how that one ends up looking for us here in a bit. All right.
So yeah, GN, we basically spoke about this, right? We had this potential accumulation, price taking these lows, swiping them out, and then we came back up and we were looking for the retracement to then go up, right? And look at what happened, right? Perfect, right? We went ahead and just really pulled back really aggressively, got back into these previous levels. And yeah, it's looking pretty good to go long now that we can see this potential reaccumulation playing out, right? So for whoever asked that question, hopefully for GBP last week and the week before, hopefully you have capitalized on that, what we've been saying for the analysis. So yeah, guys, that is pretty much what I am looking for. If you guys have anything else you guys want me to look at and review, we can definitely do that. But that's kind of my main possibilities I'm looking for. Is going to be either one, an order flow level here, or two, to actually see a full-on spring happen, and then we go ahead and go long from there, right? But yeah, only time will tell, guys. Only time will tell. Next week marks 4 months of Wyckoff Sundays, which I love to see. So that's going to be exciting. So I'll catch you guys on there next week. All right, guys. Hopefully your trading week goes amazing. Hopefully you guys mark up all these zones. If you didn't mark up the zones, I'm going to post the recording right after this. You guys can go to the recording and you guys can mark up the zones that we spoke about so you can really see how it played out yourself. All right, guys. So that's it from me. All right. Much love, much appreciation. I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right. Peace out. Deuces.